agenda. Will our clerk please read the first item?
This is the application for 312 East 16th Street, application number 24.13Z. Stuart and Margaret Duncan are requesting a variance and special exception for their property at 312 East 16th Street. A special exception is required to create a new flag lot, and a variance is needed for the new lot to be created without connections to city water and sewer. The Board of Appeals may approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist.
Thank you. And could you come on up? Be sure to state your name and address and then explain your application.
Stu and Margaret Duncan, 312 East 16th Street. So we currently own that property. It's about a acre long from north to south. And we'd like to divide it such that the south, third or so, would be a new property, probably 314, I guess. And we'd like to build a house there.
And because of its location, our current property, our current home uses a driveway that's actually, and I'm forgetting, an easement from another property, and we would want to access that same driveway area with an easement for the new property, which therefore makes it a flag lot.
So the driveway would be just south of the current garage. I don't know if you can all make out what the garage is there.
Right there.
Which is, it's just past the line. Or the
Just
garage
north
is
of the
just
line.
north of the line.
Yep.
So the driveway would be just south of the line. So we're asking for an easement of an extra 11 feet, because the first 9 feet is ours from the garage. And so we'd like an extra 11 feet to create the driveway. That would then go west toward the home.
Yep. And then, is this
should we keep
also the
going?
time about commenting about the sewer and?
Yeah, so
well,
this
okay.
first part is the variance request where we have to decide if it makes sense to allow private water and sewer or if it is required to stick to the city.
Correct, yeah. So currently, our home that we live in is tied in via 16th Street, as are all the other dwellings that share that same driveway.
Well, it's to sewer,
To
not,
city sewer.
not water.
And if we were to build this property behind the most logical access into city sewer, it would still have to go all the way to 16th Street, which would likely mean disruption of access for all the other properties that utilize that driveway. If we were to have to
Tear
do
up the
the digging
driveway
to tie in city sewer and water, because of what we've read with the rules, the property line would be more than 300 feet from the 16th Street tie-in, and therefore
We would like to request a well. Currently, at
And-
312, we have a well for water.
and as well as a septic tank instead of city sewer.
What do you got against city water?
Nothing.
I'm just, I'm
It
just
does have
kidding. I'm
fluoride,
just
which is
kidding.
good.
Not crazy about all the chlorine, but
Tap water's good. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Any questions here from the board?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you consider the requirement to have a sewer connection to be unnecessarily burdensome for you?
we do, just
Thank you.
because it's so far. It's like 300 plus feet. And if, again, to dig up the driveway, which is currently there, and is actually just resurfaced about a year and a half ago, it'd be quite a disruption for all the other people using that easement. So we would.
So have you looked into that option, or is it just automatically you knew it was going to be so difficult?
We've not consulted any professionals yet about it. We've just kind of tossed around what it would look like.
Well, we know how much it costs to pave the driveway because we did that 18 months ago. And I can't imagine asking the neighbors to pitch in for that since,
No.
they just paid for the other one.
And the access, the use of the driveway when it would be torn up in
Yeah.
order to install the sewer line.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question as well. When you started talking, said you needed an extra 11 feet easement. Where does that come from?
So
I
the
didn't catch
the
that.
rule, right, is I think 20 feet for a driveway.
Yep.
And so, just south of the property, that first 9 feet, 8.9 feet is ours. And then the rest of it is the neighbors, 316, 318. So, yeah, we needed that just to cover the rule about having a 20-foot driveway.
And the neighbor's good with that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because as long as we don't put some obstruction that would keep them from, utilizing that space.
Anybody else? Alrighty. All right, well, if there's no other questions for the applicants, then you guys can take a seat, at least for a moment, and
Thank you.
thank you. And the board will deliberate. Oh, public hearing first, sorry. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak in regards to this application? Comment or concern? Do we have any correspondence regarding this application?
No, we do not.
Okay. And so at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing and in regards to this application, and the board will discuss.
Tricia, I had a question. If you scroll back up to the sewer lines, the water lines there, who did this? Who drew this?
This was provided by the Board of Public Works.
Okay, Board of Public Works. Oh yeah, there it says from Holland Board of Public Works. So someone did that at the top. So was that all the comment on the bottom there that says there's not much room? That's also from the Board of Public Works.
Correct.
Okay, so we had the experts basically say there's not really much room for what they would need to get back there. Okay, thanks. So 305 feet from 16th Street. Was there any other alternate route? Is there any other alternate route that thing could take to get to water or sewer? Because I don't believe there is. This would be the route to take.
So the 305-foot measurement is my best guess based on a GIS photo. I looked at the other available public sewers in the area. There is a sewer main on the property to the west at Fairbanks Townhomes. And I believe there's public sewer also available to the south, I think on 18th Street. But none of those public sewer lines were any closer than going to 16th Street. They were farther away. So there didn't seem to be any other, there might not be public sewer on 18th Street. I think there was something behind there, but I don't remember what it was.
Additionally, I think 18th Street, I think you'd be going uphill.
Well, the sewer would flow down. Oh, no, you're right. It would have to have a lift station and go up.
Right.
Yeah.
To go to 18th Street, I think you'd have,
You're right. It's definitely uphill.
Right.
There were not any other public sewer lines that were closer than going to 16th Street. And 16th Street appears to be at least 300 feet away from the newly proposed property line. And then there's a setback from the front property line for a new building.
I'm looking at this also, and this is the very end of the run of the sewer, where that manhole is. It's right next to their driveway. So there's already 3 sewer services coming in right at the very end of the run. To fit a 4th one in, just into the main, it's really tight. I mean, it's.
And they have to tie into the main from
Yes.
that property.
They
They can't
can't join-
They can't join with the neighbors.
No. No, they would have to run their own pipe from the house all the way out to that manhole that's actually right next to the utility pole. It's between their driveway and the driveway at 324. So it's very, very tight.
So we're looking at the best possible route would be through this private property, which would mean that they'd have to tear up a driveway shared by neighbors with very little space, according to the Holland Board of Public Works. They even wrote down on this. Not very much room. So very long lines just to get it all the way there, disruptive to neighbors. Yeah, it's looking like that's not a very good option, if that's even an option at all. It's a very, very burdensome one, I guess you might call it. Okay.
Are there any other questions or concerns or wonderings from any of the board members? If not, I think we're looking for a motion in a second.
Did we, when we were talking about the fire lanes and access that way, that's
Nope.
for the special exception, right?
Correct.
The variance does not cover that.
Not yet.
So yeah, in that case, I'm in a pretty good way. Is it anyone else wanting to talk about anything else? Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the variance request.
Support.
Go through findings of fact now. So I would say unique circumstances with the property is predominantly its location. It is a significant distance away from the main line that we need to tap into for water and sewer. According to Chapter 29 -8, Section B, for a sewer, you would need to be connected to a sewer if you were within 200 feet, and they're around 300 feet. So it is a pretty significant distance to ask them to go an extra 100 feet beyond what the city would deem necessary. So I would say that that's a unique condition for this property, and I would also say that the property owner didn't create the need for this variance. They didn't push the land away from the street. It's just in tandem with the physical condition. It's the physical location. They're dealing with this, how they have to deal with it. So they didn't really create it themselves. I think strict compliance with connection to the city water and sewer could unreasonably prevent them and their neighbors from using their properties for an allowed use. They would need to rip up that driveway, which is shared by neighbors, in order to be able to construct water or sewer lines. There's very little room to get those lines through. Holland Board of Public Works wrote on the drawing that they created and shared with us that there is not much room. So from the experts, I really take that to mean that this is a very tight, difficult job if they were to do it, to undertake it. So I feel like it would be unnecessarily burdensome for them to comply with the connection to a city and city water and sewer. I would also say, is a variance for a private water and sewer connection the minimum necessary? I would say yes, because of the difficulty that mentioned before and the location of this property in relation to where it'd have to connect. It is going to be very difficult for them, maybe impossible, but at least very difficult for them to be able to connect. And so I would say the variance would be the minimum necessary. I'm not aware of a similar option for connection that would provide similar relief if they went in any direction besides towards 16th. Based on the maps that we looked at, it doesn't look like there's any place closer. So it would be minimum necessary, I think, to do this variance. And would the requested variance cause a negative impact on the neighbors? I would say no. The way that things are set up right now, it is far enough away that it complies with, they can drill a well, and they can operate a home without needing to connect to the sewer because they are well beyond the 200 feet the city requires. And really, I feel like the negative impact would be to the neighbors would be if they had to connect. That would be pretty disruptive for the families that use that driveway for however long it takes to get that system set up. That would be pretty impactful, I would think, if they aren't able to use their driveways anymore. So,
Derek, are we good?
I'm good with that.
Perfect. I think we're looking for a call for a vote, please.
Davis,
yes.
Sork,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Lockery,
Yes.
and Fusak.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And can you please read the next item on the agenda?
I think you can just go right into, yeah.
Straight to the, okay.
If you
So-
have questions for the applicant and you want them to come back, you could invite them back. Otherwise, if the board is satisfied that they've got all the answers that they need, you can move forward.
Okay, part two is the special exception portion to create one flag lot. Do any of the board members need to ask any additional questions?
I had
of
one question that I didn't think of earlier, and I apologize, and that was the garage. We're not-
For the applicant?
Well,
You
We can
ask your
invite them on
question.
up.
staff, maybe for staff, but what is, I guess, what's the rear yard setback for the garage?
3 feet.
So we should be
that crazy?
cool. Yeah.
It's only
All right.
3 feet.
That was my only question, and Tricia answered it. And
I
I see
told the
on,
board that this application was very complete when it came to my desk.
yep,
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that.
sorry, I didn't mean to. I thought she could answer it pretty quickly. And yeah, so on the plan, it shows 3.1, so we're not creating a setback issue with the garage. That was my only question. Thanks.
Okay. I think we're looking for a motion.
Were we gonna ask them to do something about that fire apparatus road?
I think
the
as
fence
a
gate?
condition,
Yeah,
yeah, I think we discussed northwest corner to remain accessible for fire department access.
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the special exception to create the flag lot.
I'll support.
All right, so findings of fact, I believe the new parcel will have, it is demonstrated that the new parcel will have a minimum legal access to the public street via ingress and egress easements already or in planning for recording. The proposed lot will comply with the area and width requirements of the zone that it is located. The new lot is compatible and harmonious with the established character of adjacent and nearby homes. I don't believe there's any to the detrimental effect on any adjacent properties. This is very similar to all of the adjacent properties that are also flag lots. No additional curb cut will be necessary for this because there's out on 16th Street, so I don't see any additional traffic issues here. We've already dealt with a variance for city water and sewer, so the parcel will not be served with city water and sewer via a variance that we've already dealt with, and the lot split will comply with the Land Division Act, with the city's master plan and code and ordinances. As a part of this special exception, we'd like to, I believe it's already been discussed with the applicant, that the north property line will be designated as the front yard. for all future considerations. And that the fire department that there will be a fire department access agreement with Tulip Boulevard for the northwest corner, to access through for the northwest corner.
All right, so the first two factors were just recitations of the factors. If we could get some dimensions for the lot and the access, that'd probably be good.
Or if you want to reference the survey that's included in the packet, that's dated November 21.
According to the survey dated November 21 from Holland Engineering, there appears to be 21.6 feet provided for ingress and egress minimum at the narrowest point.
It looks like the narrowest point would be 20 exactly, I
Is
think,
it 20
right?
exactly?
Because it narrows a smidge to 8.9. So you got 8.9
Oh, yes, I do
plus
see that.
11.1.
Yep, 8.9, yep, 20 exactly at that west edge there. Yep, and then
I think it's the 93 by 156.
in terms of the dimensions, are 93 by 156 feet at the smallest size, with an area of 0.345 acres.
I think we're good with that. Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, thank you, and we're ready for a vote.
Do we need a public hearing on this one also or not?
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Fred.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody here to speak, a comment either way on this applicant or Part 2 special exception for a flag lot? Any correspondence?
None.
No correspondence received. At this time, we'll close the public hearing. And may I call for a vote now? Okay, I think we're ready.
The motion is to approve with conditions. Sork,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Yes.
Lockery,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
and Fusak.
Yes,
The motion passes.
thank you.
Just for clarification, who seconded that motion? Davis?
I believe I did.
Okay.
Yeah, Davis did.
Yep.
Fred did as well after that, but Davis was first.
He thirded it.
We really supported your motion.
Perfect.
There was a lot of strong support.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all.
All right, thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, hard stuff, so.
All righty, can our clerk please read the next item on the agenda?
This is for application for 287 West 19th Street, application number 24.14H. Tegan Quinnell is requesting a variance to allow 2 rooms to be used as legal bedrooms at her property at 289 West 19th Street. Each bedroom is 63 square feet in area where a minimum of 70 feet is required for 1 occupant. The Board of Appeals can approve this request if certain conditions are found to exist.
Thank you. Quick question. 289 or 7? 287?
Yes.
West 19th? Okay. Let me get back to my... Okay, could the applicant come on up to explain the application? Please state your name and address.
I'm Katie McGregor. I'm representing the owner today for 287 West 19th.
Can you please explain the application?
Sure. So I'm a property manager at Cornerstone. The owner hired us to market her property. And then when we did the city inspection, The rooms are deemed too small for the city ordinance, so we're asking for a variance. So the 2 rooms, the photos are real estate photos. You have to understand that it looks a lot newer and nicer in the photos compared to real life, but it's been cosmetically updated. There's been no structural changes in the property. It's still old. It's an old home. So,
Oh, you say it's old home. When was it built?
1911, I
1911.
believe.
Are there any questions from the board for the applicant?
Did the current owner live in the house?
Yes.
For how long?
Approximately 3 years, I believe.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when he or she bought the place, she intended to live there, and
Yes.
so now she just wants to change that.
Yes, so she accepted a job out of state, which offers her room and board. So instead of selling the property, she opted to potentially rent it. So it was just her and her dog that occupied the home. It was plenty big enough for them, but she's just looking for another option besides selling. So
Did, so she was unaware of this requirement of 70 square feet when she was considering doing this?
correct, not aware.
Is if the option were to come up where they could join those 2 bedrooms into 1 bedroom and rent the property, is that wall between the 2 a load-bearing wall, or do you know?
I do not think that it is. I think only the outside walls are the load-bearing ones. But I think that it would reduce her rentability, and her margins would probably lower to the point where she would not be interested in renting it, just because it would be less people to be able to occupy the home. So to have a 1-bedroom just reduces the need out there.
So Tricia, if it was rented as a 2-bedroom, is the rule that you can rent, or like up to 4 people, unrelated people can live in that house? Or what are the city's requirements after that point?
Yeah, great question. So it's based first on square footage. So the applicant is here tonight asking for basically an occupant load of 2 people.
2 people.
So whether it was a 1-bedroom with an occupant load of 2 people or a 2-bedroom with an occupant load of 2 people, would be the minimum, that would be the maximum allowed, would be 2. So if you had a larger home that, say, had an occupant load of 6 people, we would limit the number of unrelated people based on the zoning ordinance.
Okay.
That regulation does not apply to this situation with a potential occupant load of just 2 people.
Does the city periodically inspect things like how many people actually end up living there, or how does that happen?
We do rental inspections on a 3-year basis for our rental inspection program. When our inspectors are out doing inspections, they do check for overcrowding. So if they were to come into this house and it were to be occupied by 6 people, that would be an easy violation to see. And then the property owner would be required to reduce the number of occupants to meet the legal load. We only inspect properties on either a regular basis if it's a rental or on a complaint basis. So as an owner-occupied home, we would not have known that these rooms were this small.
Okay, thank you.
Do we know when the 70-foot minimum came to being in our city?
No, I know that our rental regulations were adopted back in 1985, and they followed the Boca Building Code at the time, which had 70 square feet minimum for 1 occupant. I know the current residential building code also has that same standard in place, but when those rules were enacted with the sizes, I don't have any idea. I don't know if that would have been in effect at the time the house was built in 1911 or not.
I have a question, and maybe the sketch doesn't show that there's closets. I don't know if you addressed it. Is there closets in these bedrooms?
There are closets.
Do you know the approximate size of those?
One of them is probably 2 by 3, and the other one is probably 4 by 2.
So I just looked at the pictures on Caitlin's phone, and even if the closets are not in a configuration that they could be removed from the room to add additional floor area. They're almost more like cabinets,
Okay,
where the floor area is in a different part of the house. So even if you were to dismantle the closet, it would just leave you with a small opening. It wouldn't add floor area to the room.
and just an explanation for the question is that if we have looked at some of the past cases where there's been a variance requested for room size, and
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, when it's reasonable to make an accommodation by deleting a closet or making a room larger or things like that, we had some opportunity to discuss that. So that's why I was asking if there's any reasonable way to make it come closer to 70 feet.
Yeah.
But it appears that it's not that reasonable. Thank you.
So Tricia, a question, are there also dimensional requirements for rooms, for bedrooms, in addition to square feet?
Yes, so bedrooms are required to be a minimum of 7 feet wide in each direction and a minimum of 70 square feet in floor area.
Okay.
So the closets that Caitlin mentioned, like the door opening is 1.5 feet wide, but the actual closet space extends like into the bathroom or into the living room. So we can't measure anything towards square footage that's less than 7 feet wide. So even, yeah. So if they were going to combine the 2 bedrooms by knocking out a portion of the wall, they would need to knock out at least a 7-foot wide opening for us to consider that to be one room.
I have another question, or just a comment. So one of the other components that this board needs to evaluate is whether the health, welfare, and safety of the occupants of the property might be compromised if the variance is granted. So if this were to become a rental unit, 2 bedrooms, up to 2 occupants total, is there any conditions that exist that you can speak to where somebody would not be able to reasonably be able to egress during a fire? Is there any other major obstacle, existing on the property itself with these 2 rooms that might compromise somebody's safety or their health? I assume the ceilings are appropriate height. Speak to some of that, and then if you know about any fire detectors that are in where they're located in the house or
Sure.
near the bedrooms.
I do not remember where the smoke detectors are located, but if we were granted the variance, it would be up to city code with all the other requirements. So Christy Birch was the inspector. I'm not sure if she noted the smoke detectors during her inspection, but they should be in each bedroom and in the living areas, and I believe there is one in the basement as well. There is windows in both rooms for a fire escape for somebody to exit or into the dining room or living room.
So both bedrooms have egress into an interior, like a hallway, or like you said, the dining room?
Yes.
Another room, so they're not stacked. You don't have to go through one room to get to the other room to get out.
No.
They're both like adjacent.
Yep.
And your drawing suggests that as well.
Yes.
So it seems reasonable that somebody occupying those rooms would be able to get out in a hurry,
Yes.
one way or the other.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
A quick question I had, are there other dimensional requirements for other rooms in the home other than bedrooms? Say dining rooms, living rooms, kitchens that restrict occupancies, other than just overall square footage?
Yes.
And the reason for my question is a suggested stipulation would be if the home was modified in the future by an addition or expansion, these bedrooms shall also be modified to meet the minimum room size required by code. And one of those could be by redoing a wall that might subtract square footage from a different room, then that might have a different dimensional variance or requirement. So that's
Sure.
what, that's the reason for my question.
Sure. So this is the occupancy chart that exists in chapter 14 of the City of Holland Ordinance Code. So in this column here, these are the space requirements for 1 to 2 occupants. So a home with an occupancy calculation of 2 occupants, we don't have a specific minimum size for the living room or the dining room. The kitchen needs to be 50 square feet. In the bedrooms there, 50 square feet per occupant with a minimum of 70 square feet for 1 occupant. So if you had 2 occupants in a bedroom, they would need to be 50 square feet per person. So 100 square feet for 2, but a minimum of 70 square feet per 1 in the bedrooms. So if they did a renovation project and they made the bedroom large, say they made the bedroom 150 square feet for 3 occupants, then these other minimum calculations would come into play, and we would require 120 square feet for the living room, 80 square feet for the dining room, and then 50 still for the kitchen.
It's really interesting that the bedrooms are 50 per person unless there's just one. Then they get more room.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, because generally, either if you have multiple people in a room, they're either sharing 1 bed or there's 2 smaller beds, usually.
If the 2 bedrooms were, if the dimensions of the 2 bedrooms were 7 by 10, then would you allow 2 people in that house to live or not?
So the minimum square footage is 70 square feet for 1 occupant. So yes, if each bedroom was 70 square feet instead of 63, this would have a legal occupant load of 2 people.
Okay. So if they move that wall 1 foot, if they move that interior wall 1 foot to the right, it would be a 10-foot by 7-foot bedroom.
Then they'd have an occupant load of 1 person for this house, because then you're making the other bedrooms smaller.
No,
The whole wall.
Oh,
The
you
north-south
mean this
wall.
wall?
Yes.
Yes, if this wall was deconstructed and built out here, then yes, that would provide appears to provide legal 70 square feet of 2 rooms
Which
with
is
an
probably
occupant
not
load of
in
2.
line with the exterior wall there that's.
Again, I don't know what
And
walls
the
are
electrical
load
and the
bearing.
heating ducts and everything else that goes along with it. Right.
Yeah.
And the old plaster.
Not an easy move.
If the board denies the variance because they don't think it meets the tests for approval, then the property owner would need to explore what other options were available. And that could be an option.
okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
It might be in the info, but what's the total square footage of the house? Just curious, nothing relevant.
I do not have that in front of me, but I could
Okay.
look at the sale of the home. I could look at when it sold.
Yeah,
what
I'm
it
just
was.
kind of curious. It seems like a cozy little house, just kind of curious.
683 was what was reported for the sale.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's not a lot of wiggle room to make it.
No.
Although that is a consideration, there is options for the homeowner, should it be denied. Thank you.
See
Just-
Yes.
windows. That's what I was looking at, the pictures. I see windows, but they're not.
I think it was mentioned before, but the closets in question, if those got removed, that wouldn't add square footage, because I guess these are like built, kind of like they're called hutches maybe, but they're built into the wall
Would you like me
somewhere?
to show you the photos so
Yeah, I
everybody's aware?
appreciate that.
Do you have the document camera? Okay.
I think it's almost more like a coat closet instead of a big, long, modern closet.
And the closet would have to be 7 foot in width.
That's okay.
Okay.
Hold on just a second.
She's got to get it switched over for us to see it.
handful, I have a couple pictures. I have a couple photos. I can just explain to you so you can look at it and understand, I guess. So what you're looking at, the left is an enclosed porch towards 19th Street. I'm standing in the living room. So the left is the enclosed porch, and then to the right is that, well, you can consider bedroom number 1. The closet, if you look at the wall where those, the light switches are, the closet is directly in line with that shiplap wall. So that shiplap wall that you were looking at, this is the closet that butts up to that entry space.
Okay.
The enclosed porch, I guess you would say.
So that's not that opening would be difficult to get it to be 7 feet wide in enough directions to get it to add to the floor area of the room legally.
Okay. So this is that door closed. I'm in the second bedroom now. My back is to the first bedroom. My back is to that wall that they share. To the right, the first door is the one that opens into the dining room.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second doorway is the small closet that I described as 2 by 3 in the beginning. And then this doorway is the bathroom, one of the bathroom access. You can access it through that bedroom or through the kitchen.
Okay.
So if that helps. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you for showing me that.
Yep.
Showing us that.
And I think that the description that it has to be a 7-foot width to be included in the dimensions for the, to increase it from 63 to the full 70 square foot is helpful.
As we've discussed before, staff tries really hard to exhaust all potential options and avenues with the applicant before they come to the board. Because if there are other viable options, we want to make sure that they explore those and take those into account before they spend the money to come to a meeting to ask for a variance.
Mm-hmm. All right, any other questions from the board? See nobody jumping to the mic. Thank you. You can be seated.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. At this time, we'll open the public hearing for comment or concern specific and to the point in regards to this particular application. Is there anybody here wishing to speak for or against this application? Any correspondence?
None.
None? Okay. At this time, we will close the public hearing and the board will deliberate. Does anybody have?
So one thing I
Any
wanted
thoughts?
clarification on with that, with the closets was just the way that it was drawn. That floor plan made it look like there were no closets to speak of, and I think when we're considering the, I guess, mental and physical health of occupants, would be that if they don't have any closet space, they're going to have to put their clothes somewhere, and maybe they do that in a space under their bed, or maybe they have like a wardrobe or some such. I don't know exactly, but it would be taking up even more space. The fact that they do actually have, both of those bedrooms have closets, they do have closet space, means that there's more, in my mind, there's going to be more floor space that will be, what I guess the word would be like traversable safely, I guess.
I think that's a great point.
So I was glad to see that. At least that put my mind a little bit more at ease when we talk about health of occupants.
I don't think that I'm going to vote to approve this because we have a standard of 70 square feet. And while it's difficult to relate that to health, welfare, and safety of the occupants, I think there was a deliberate attempt to relate that. That's what the 70 square feet is about. And so I don't feel comfortable approving something that is 90% of the requirement without any reason to approve it. The staff presented us with other cases what are similar to this, and in May of 1996, there was a property that was attempted at, it was 6 feet 7 inches and 62, with only 62.5 square feet where 70 is required, and that one was denied.
So in that one, Fred, they were asking for 2 variances. They needed a variance from both the width and the square footage
Yeah.
requirement.
But in the other ones that you mentioned, the dimensional requirements don't seem to be the basis for denying anything. It seems like the square feet is a more valuable test of whether this is being met. In June of 2004, there was another property owner that didn't realize that there was a standard, and they came in to request approval, and that one was denied. Also, it doesn't say anything about what they were actually asking for or what they were presenting, but I just don't feel comfortable approving something unless I have a reason to approve it. And I think these standards are important for us. They're one of the few things that we use in any of these applications, and we need a reason not to accept it. And I don't see what that reason is. And so I think it may be possible to make some modifications to the floor plan. It is a business now. The woman has left and she wants to make money from this. And so some kind of investment might be worth her while. I don't know. I certainly can't know what she's thinking, but I think it's possible to do something like that.
And just for clarification, the board can vote however they feel is appropriate based on the information provided. Now that we have the occupant load calculation, if she decides to sell it, she's required to disclose that to any future buyers, and this house has an occupant load of 0 as it sits today, just FYI.
Unless it's an owner-occupied house.
No. From now on forward, this house has an occupant load of 0 people.
So she can't sell it.
She can sell it, but someone will have to make a physical modification to
Oh,
the
I
house
see.
before anybody can move in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's owner occupied or if it's a rental.
Because it won't meet the criteria for a legal domicile or
Right,
some such. Okay.
because if the owner decides this is not gonna work, I'm gonna sell it, and if I buy it, I can't move in until I physically modify the house
Something.
or come back and ask again for another variance if something has changed. That's why they're here.
Yeah, and so there's whoever the owner is, in order to have it occupied, they would have to have at least one bedroom of 70 square feet.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I don't get a vote, but of the 2 questions that the board has to deny or approve, question number 1 is the one that posed a problem for me in terms of, I didn't think that, up until that last nugget, I didn't think we
Nugget?
got there. But I think actually the undue burden really does fall on that 0 occupancy. That is quite, nobody expects to buy a home or sell a home that has a 0 occupancy. And we now will be creating that burden. Well, I mean, it existed, but now it's come to light. So I think that really is relevant information to consider when evaluating these 2 criteria for opposing or approving the application. Again, I don't get a vote, but number 2, the health, welfare, safety of occupants, I don't think that it's going to be compromised by granting the variance, and I do now think that the occupancy requirement will pose an undue burden to have to sell the house to somebody who cannot really occupy it until they make changes to it. So I think that it behooves the board to consider very strongly that piece of information before taking a final vote.
I'd like to make a motion, if we're ready for that, to
Okay.
approve the variance to allow 2 rooms to be used as legal bedrooms at this property.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, and thank you. And I would like to, as a part of this motion to approve, I'd also like to include a stipulation that there be hardwired smoke detectors and a carbon monoxide detector added to the home. The hardwired smoke detectors, at least for these 2 bedrooms. I do believe that the occupancy requirement of 1 person per bedroom based on the minimum square footage, this house has existed since 1911. It's existed in this fashion. I think it is an undue burden. I believe it's a lot to make changes. The wiring, the electrical, the HVAC for such a small house. I mean, the level of renovations that would have to be done to make a 1-foot accommodation would be astronomical. I mean, there's tray ceiling. I mean, the ceiling. I'm sorry. The detail inside the rooms, everything. It's all the trim work. It's just it's a heck of a burden to redo all of this, all of these door jams and everything, just to move it 1 foot to make that accommodation. And I do not believe that the health, welfare, or safety of the occupants would be compromised if the variance is granted, because it has existed in this fashion since 1911. These 2 bedrooms have existed for over 100 years. And I think we're, looking to add some more safety. Homes are safer than they used to be with, smoke detectors. And as Matt mentioned, we've got, there are closets for these rooms, so it's more than just the 63 square footage. There is additional room for storage in each of these rooms that is not required to be, as a part, to be considered. So those are my findings of fact.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Just a quick question, Dan. Did you want to consider the other condition? No. Okay. I think we're looking for a vote.
The motion is to approve with conditions. Sork,
Yes.
Lockery,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Van Antwerp,
Well, after listening to the esteemed arguments of my colleague over here, I'm going to vote yes.
and Fusak.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Reluctantly.
Understood. You have an excellent reason. We have a standard of 70, and I do agree. It is a tough burden, and we do need to. It has to be a tough burden to approve. I wholeheartedly agree. To come off of that number, but we've got a situation here. That is. It's a small house, and I'd love to see it put into use, and it's a heck of a burden that we would put on that homeowner to say 0 occupancy.
I agree. All right, we need to approve the minutes from the last meeting on October 24th. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? All those in support, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Okay, minutes are approved. If there's no further orders of business. Next meeting is January 23rd, 2025.
Next
Uh,
available meeting. Unless there's
Correct.
No,
Yeah, we don't have any applications yet. I haven't talked to anybody. And we did modify the application deadline, but because this meeting falls out of order, we still have a couple weeks before the deadline hits.
Okay. All right. If there's no further orders of business, we're looking for a motion to adjourn. All
Motion
those
to adjourn.
support?
support, all those in support, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Meeting is adjourned.